Once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with it. Steve Marboli said that once. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 54, Develop the Mindset of a Navy SEAL with Mark Divine. Hey folks, it's your founder and host of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, Scott McCarthy. And I'm telling you, I am stoked. You are in for a treat today. First off, I guess I'm so excited I should probably introduce the show and what we're about. Because if this is your first time listening, you are probably about to hit pause right about now and stop listening. So, welcome to Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. This show, weekly show, is all about helping you become a better leader. That is it. And I go out and find world-class guests and bring them on to answer your questions, my questions, on how we can be better leaders. Because you know what? The world does not need any more bosses, right? We all know what I'm talking about when I say we don't need any more bosses. No, we need more leaders, okay? And today falls right in line with that. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, do we have a interview lined up. And the only thing I want to say before I even dive into introducing the guest is that you actually missed out. Because if you were in the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind, you would have already seen this interview. Because I released the video recording of it to the Mastermind. And you're like, Scott, what's the Mastermind? How can I get in? Pretty simple. It's a Facebook group where I go and host and invite the guests, and as well you, the listeners, to come on in and talk leadership. You cannot find this anywhere else, folks. You cannot find it anywhere else. Believe me. All right. So, anyway, all that to say is when I finished recording this episode months ago, I was so excited about it. I just immediately released the video to the Mastermind, and everybody got to see the raw interview between myself and former U.S. Navy SEAL. Yes, that's right. Former U.S. Navy SEAL Mark Divine. And they get to see it right away. So you should go there. All right. And if you want to become part of the Mastermind, pretty simple. movingforwardleadership.com/mastermind. And that'll take you directly to the Facebook group. Or if you just go on Facebook and search Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind, you'll find it there. Okay. But talking about today's episode, you're in for a treat. I managed to reach out thanks to former guest Thor Conklin for giving me the connection. And if you haven't listened to his show, definitely go back and check it out because that one was awesome. All right. But anyway, Thor linked me up with Mark. And I managed to squingle a little bit of Mark's time and his schedule. We had to actually squeeze it in. So he's actually at a hotel because his house was under some renovations and stuff. So, but we got it done. And that's all that matters, right? So, former U.S. Navy SEAL, now basically founder and CEO of his own company, SEALFIT. And we're talking all about mindfulness and mindset. Why? Because being in the right mindset and having things checked out, yourself squared away in your mind is the most crucial because without that, you cannot lead your people, folks. If you're not squared away, you cannot be a good leader. And this is what we're talking about this whole time with Mark. All right. It is an outstanding episode. Honestly, hit pause and bookmark it, flag it, whatever your app does, because you are going to want to listen to this one more than once. Believe me, I've listened to it, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times, and I'm reading his book now. Okay? The Way of the SEAL. Outstanding. Anyway, folks, that's it. I'm way too excited, so I'm going to let you go. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode between myself and Mark Divine talking about how you can develop the mindset of a Navy SEAL. Mark, man, welcome to Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Scott, thanks for inviting me. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, Ditto. Every now and then I throw out random awards for my guests, and you get the award of the first former Special Forces guy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's pretty cool to note that I was up there in Canada training the guys out at Shiloh. Princess Patricia Brigade. What a great group of guys. We had them all doing yoga, by the way. I got a big picture of us in their big bay where they had all the Amtraks, whatever we call them, Amtraks. And there were like 75 guys doing Kokoro yoga with me. They loved it.
That's awesome. Side
It's not a picture you see very often around.
No. Actually, we had almost a whole base in my last base in Borden, which is just about an hour north of Toronto, for Canadian Forces Fitness Day or Health Day or something like this, and it was yoga.
Nice.
Almost the entire base. So almost probably about 2,000 to 3,000 people. It wasn't the whole base, but it was pretty close to it. 2,000 to 3,000 folks out on a big sports field.
That's awesome. I've been teaching yoga to SEAL trainees since 2007, and they love it. And they use the breathing, obviously, for focus and concentration. That's where we developed our box breathing practice, and it got them doing concentration training and visualization. And it's totally natural to them, but I couldn't really call it yoga. I had to call it like Navy SEAL mental tactical training. And that's what my Unbeatable Mind training kind of all evolved from, but I knew it as yoga.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Love it. So one of the first things I like to do on my show is to get the guests, give quick background about them, who they are, where they come from, anything interesting. So why don't we start off there, and then we can talk about your life in the SEALs and that jazz.
Sure. You want me to just give you a synopsis of who I am? Is that
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm from a small town in upstate New York, actually pretty close to the Canadian border. We used to cross over into Montreal from Lake Placid to get Brador's beer when I was a teenager.
Nice.
And it had like 8% alcohol, and we just thought that was the bomb.
I love it.
So I probably grew up a lot like you did. It was like a small town, upstate New York, rural farming community. Spent my summers up in the Adirondacks roaming around the woods and the mountains, and always in and out of the water. I developed a keen interest in nature and in hiking and in swimming, which led into kind of like an endurance athletics career through high school and college. I swam competitively at Colgate University, where I went to college, which was also in upstate New York. Long, cold winters. When I left Colgate with a BA in economics, I followed my teammates and my friends down to New York City, where I got a job with back then what they call the Big 8 accounting firm, which are the 8 largest accounting consulting firms in the world. They're now the Big 4 because they've all kind of merged. But I started my first career was essentially auditor, and I became a certified public accountant. You'd probably call them chartered accountants or something up there. And went to NYU Business School, Stern School of Business, got my MBA in finance, and all that happened, graduation, around 21 years old until about 25. And, I tell this story in my book, The Way of the SEAL, but during that time frame, I had a major shift. It was like an early midlife crisis, without it being midlife. And I think a quarter life crisis, which I am super grateful for, because I didn't have to go through it in midlife or later in life even. But I just had this kind of like existential crisis, and it came about, I will have to say, because I started studying Zen meditation. I was studying karate with a grand master, Zen master, who was kind of masquerading as a karate instructor. He was also a master karate instructor, but he was teaching us Zen principles, Zen warrior mindset. He had us practicing Zen meditation every day, and then for an hour on Thursdays. And we would go to these retreats. Of course, they were voluntary. Not everyone did them, but I jumped on every single one of them. We would go up to the Zen Mountain Monastery in Woodstock, New York, and spend the whole weekend there with the monks. And what happened, Scott, and this is kind of like a good jumping off point, for some other conversations. But what happened is, at a very young age, my mind really changed dramatically from all the meditation and all the, all that work I was doing. As you know, in males, young men don't really fully develop their brains until like 25, sometimes even 26. And I was getting that massive neuroplastic stimulus through the Zen training at a very young age. And it opened me wide up. And what I saw, I didn't like initially, right? Because what I saw was that I was kind of living this lie. I was living someone else's story for me. The whole grub for money and climb the corporate ladder and having to be in business just wasn't really me. And when I looked inside through the Zen training, what I saw was something else. I saw a warrior. I saw a leader. I saw someone leading other people in, risky and dangerous environments. And that's what inspired me. And every time I get off the bench, I'd be super excited about that. And then I would go back to work and I'd be super miserable. And I was like, okay, I got to do something. So I left corporate America at 25 and joined the Navy, U.S. Navy. Went through officer candidate school. I was one of 2 people selected that year. Then I went to SEAL training. And SEAL training, I found my new home. I found my brotherhood. And I went through SEAL training in 1990, class 170, graduated as honor man in my class. Out of 185 students, I graduated number 1. And, I credit the Zen training. Of course, it didn't hurt that I was a great swimmer and okay with a lot of pain. I was pretty good at taking pain. So spent 20 years in the SEAL teams, 10 of it active, 10 reserve. And as a reservist, as I could, get out and kind of have a somewhat normal life, except, when I got recalled to active duty. And that's when I got into entrepreneurship. And I wanted to really give back and to teach what I learned. And, so not only what I learned from the SEALs, but also from my lifelong training in the martial arts and yoga. And so I began to train other SEAL trainees and through my business SEALFIT. And that was, that's a whole nother journey that I probably can stop here because there's some, it's just extraordinary the impact we were able to have with these young warriors. And now I teach everybody, I teach corporate execs and teams and soccer moms and kids.
That's wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So much in there. That's pretty crazy to think of how you were, on that whole stereotypical corporate world and corporate life and plan and glide path, to use a flight term. And then all of a sudden you just got into meditation and 180.
It was a 180 for sure. I mean, I'm not sure you've called it 180, but it was certainly a serious departure from the norm, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
From the standard. And man, was I heavily criticized and questioned, except by my closest friends. I mean, my parents literally thought I had, just literally lost my mind. And, because here I was like, quote unquote, throwing away my MBA, CPA, this perfect white collar career. We have a family business that all my 2 brothers and sister work for and have worked for forever. And of course, my dad expected me to come back and work for it and, kind of be the golden boy who, with his MBA and CPA, would guide it into the future. And I just had no interest. But if I hadn't sat down on that bench with Nakamura and over that 3-4 year period, really done that work, I probably would be there today. Scott, it's, and a lot of people, what I found, a lot of people kind of find themselves in that situation where they've never been exposed to these things. That's why I think it was a huge blessing. And part of my, calling in life was to get exposed to these things early on so that I could live it and then teach it, while I was still able to reach a lot of people. Because, you might have someone like my instructor, Nakamura, he, through karate, he was able to impact a lot of people, but certainly not enough to affect, global society. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I'm going to, but I have a goal of affecting, transforming 100 million people. Now, those 100 million, if they could each then, through the way they live, impact 10 people. Now we're talking about 1 billion people. You know what I mean? And I'm not the only one out there doing this, and I'm now training and certifying people to teach these things. Generally, I think that everyone is capable of so much more than they're aware of, right? They don't know how to access their full mind capacity because they've been taught the wrong things, and also they've been taught a very limited view of what the mind is. And we have a conflationist view of the mind being just the brain, when my experience in through all of my meditation and yoga and the Navy SEALs was that your mind power is enmeshed throughout your body. You as a warrior probably appreciate this. Like your brain is your body. And so your mind is the experience of your brain, which is your body. So body, mind, spirit are all one, but we experience them in different ways. We experience them as physically, our physical balance, our mobility, our fitness, our health, our weight, our strength, power. We experience that, how we show up in the world. We also experience it energetically and through our balance or, diminishment of energy or replenishment of energy. And then we also experience it through our mind. But to be honest, to be fair, those are all part and parcel of the same experience. And so what I try to teach people is start how to look at their life as the optimization of their mind, and then it affects everything else they do. It affects their body, it affects their emotions, it affects their intuition, it affects their spirituality, it affects their relationships. But the mind, I don't mean brain. I mean your mind as a collective whole.
Yeah, completely.
Body, mind system,
No, it's some seriously deep stuff, Mark. I love it. I really love it. So here's, I guess, a following question is, how did you use meditation and this mindfulness in your leadership style, your leadership approach I guess you're both while you were in the SEALs and the team and since you've moved into the business world? Yeah,
so it's a great question. So I didn't really know when I was in the SEALs that I was using it, but I was using it all the time.
Yeah.
Even in SEAL training, one of the reasons that I was so successful in training and honorman in my class was because I was able to control my mental and emotional states using the skills I had learned from Nakamura, had trained with on the Zen bench of breath control, of also managing my internal dialogue, of mindfully noting when my brain started to chatter and lose focus on the task at hand and being able to redirect it back to that task. Being able to appreciate some of the biased decisions that could creep up, and to be able to interdict those and to find my way to a better decision. And I would say probably the most important was the ability to be really present, to realize that being right here, right now, where I could really listen to my teammates, really think through and listen to like the mission orders and instructions. And really be able to ask myself, what exactly is being asked of us here? What's the mission? How are we going to best accomplish this mission? And then the capacity to visualize the mission outcome in my mind, and to also visualize things that are likely to go wrong, and to visualize options for overcoming those. Now, these are skills that are now starting to be taught, but back then, what I just described I'd never heard another SEAL instructor tell me or anything. It was just happening because I had trained it through Zen and through, some of the experiences that Nakamura put me through. So those are the things that I think are helping leaders, or will help leaders today, really break through and understand how to lead in what we call the VUCA environment. In the military and special ops in particular, we used to say that the environment is really volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, VUCA. And who cares? We still got to optimize our attack plan and really get the job done in spite of all that. And so we don't let volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity stall us or set us off track. We use our skills to be really effective in that environment. Well, business leadership is starting to look a lot like combat. Everything's moving and changing so fast. 100%. Yeah, we moved from complicated to complex in the last 5 years, where there really is no well-known or definable answer to a lot of things. So you just have to try things out and iterate. This very well. So
yeah, you
these
gotta take
skills are
everything
great.
with its own overlay, as I say, and
Yeah.
yes, right. You can't just use the cookie cutter solution, which people have gotten
Right.
used to for years.
And we were trained both
Yeah.
in business and in school, and it's just
100%.
it's a linear kind of industrial age, and it's compartmented,
Stovepiping.
stovepipe and kind of flat way of looking at the world. Now we have to kind of step out of that and look at it holographically.
Yep.
We have to look at it as a complex system of systems. We have to be able to take multiple perspectives simultaneously. And this requires us to really kind of upgrade our whole entire operating system. And people are saying, how do we do that? And what I'm saying is you can do that, but you got to slow down, sit down, learn how to meditate, learn how to visualize, learn how to control your physiology through the breath and to recharge your energy body. Learn how to use your whole mind, which includes your heart mind, your gut biome mind, your whole mind, brain mind, and your body sensual mind, right? As well as the energetic field of intelligence that surrounds you. And we'll call that intuition or instinctual. Probably not so much instinctual because that's mostly epigenetic, but like your intuitional mind is how you relate to the world immediately near you and outside of you to gain information. So like the way a lot of soldiers and SEALs over in Iraq and Afghanistan are like getting sensations and imagery of roadside bombs planted before they even get there. That's what I mean by that. That's the mind that extends beyond your body. Mm-hmm. So we want to train people how to tap these skills and how to begin to use these skills through a process of integration. I call it 5 mountain training. Train yourself physically. We have a lot of different tools to train how to really be different in the way we move and the way we look at movement and moving with the breath and moving with proper alignment and mobility and all that. So it's physically, physiology, nutrition, all that fits in that category. And then mental. So we have physical, mental. Mental includes both rational skills as well as non-rational or not irrational, but non-rational, non-linear, things like visualization and sensory development. And then emotional development. That's one that really, really is important for leaders, is to learn how to be emotionally mature. And you still with me?
Yep. I'm like in a zone here, just listening to you.
Yeah, you're going to have to edit that out. Sorry, because something popped up and I couldn't see anymore. So the emotional development is really killer. That's, takes a lot of time in and of itself for people just to become more emotionally aware, just see what we call what background of obviousness things from their childhood are really tripping them up and causing them to make bad decisions. And then the intuitive part, I've already kind of addressed that. That's really when things start to integrate and you're able to feel your body more, the sensations. You're not, the sensations aren't corrupted by false ideas or false beliefs, which is what, a lot of times emotions are. So, and you're able to actually transmit information to and from others through your body. Like empathy, right, is actually your heart communicating with another person. And your biome, reacting to danger is that gut check, you know what I mean, or fear. So we learn to appreciate the power of that intuitive and insightful and instinctual intelligence that we all have. And then the last of the 5 mountains. So we had physical, mental, emotional, intuitional. And then instead of saying spiritual, because that, that's kind of that term has kind of been hijacked by too many people. We use the term kokoro. Kokoro is a Japanese martial term that has deep significance, and it means whole mind or heart mind, and also merging your heart and mind into your action. So this is like going out in the world and doing something important, like a warrior would, serving his country or her country, or being very clear about, instead of just going to work and earning money like I was as a CPA, trying to, through your business, help change the world in some way that's meaningful to you. That's kokoro, right? That's like living your purpose with your hair on fire. No one's ever going to, get in your way or cause you to quit. There's, you might have bad days, but it never deters you from your mission. There is no quit. That's heart, mind, and action. And you also are really deeply connected to your team and to the broader team of humanity. So you're doing you're inspired to do good for good's sake, for the humanity and for the earth, and not just for your piggy bank or, just for your club, your tribe, or even your country. You know what I mean? This type of thinking is really, in my opinion, is utterly necessary for us as a human race to move on to the next level. And even to be able to understand and to navigate the technological change that's coming on us like a tsunami.
No, we're not even anywhere near the beginning, let alone
totally
into the deep of it. Wow, those 5 minutes. That's an awesome philosophy for sure, and way to look at it. Just to keep with that theme, though, how could leaders use this in their decision making cycle and decision making process so that they can make better, quicker, sounder decisions in your mind?
Well, there's got to be a starting point, and for us, the starting point is creating a daily routine. So here's the thing: we're warriors. And I want to teach people to think and lead like warriors because that's super effective and necessary for this period of life. It might change, in 20 years or something like that. But right now, warriors step into the, into the gap and solve the problem. So every day that the warrior lives is a precious day. You know that, right? Especially when you're in combat. We have this saying, and Nakamura used to say this in the Zen talks: one day, one lifetime. What that means is today might be my last, so let's make it our best. The other way to look at it is every day is a lifetime of learning. It's an opportunity for a lifetime of learning if you pay attention. In order to do that, you've got to start simplifying, right? We call it the KISS principle. Keep it simple, Sally. Start simplifying and say no to most things so you can say yes to the right things. So in order to do this, we have routines and rituals. So we start our day with what we call a morning ritual. That morning ritual, we do 5 mountain integrated training. So that means we do some box breathing or breath work. Mm-hmm. Then we do some light somatic work. If you have time, you might squeeze your workout into this period too. Then we do some concentration and work on our mantra for positivity, feeding the courage wolf. Then we do some visualization, and we visualize ourselves 3 years out and then 25 years out. And then at the end of this whole morning ritual, we check in with our plan for the day and our ethos, our stand, and we ask ourselves, is our plan in alignment with our stand? A lot of times it's not. And so it's an opportunity before you step foot out the door to make some changes to your plan for that day, to what your focus was, to what your main thing is that you need to accomplish that's going to move the dial forward, to obligations that you may have committed or others may have committed you to. Now's the time to say no, to keep it simple so you can focus on the right things. That whole process, that Unbeatable Mind ritual, that morning ritual, we call winning in your mind before stepping into the arena. Right? It's a famous Sun Tzu quote. Victorious warrior wins in his mind first and then goes to battle. Whereas the average warrior goes to battle hoping to win.
Yeah.
So we do this every morning. Wake up, win in our mind, and then you go and kick ass and take names. And then at the end of the day, we have an evening ritual, which kind of is more of a look back. We call it a recapitulation, where you learn from everything that went wrong. You celebrate the few victories, so you maintain that positive momentum. You do some more box breathing and maybe like a recovery pose. Prepare yourself for sleep, that kind of thing. And so those two act as like bookends so that every day becomes a one day, one lifetime opportunity to really put forth your best self and to learn and grow. So every day you do this and you get, like, let's just say 1% better, 1% more clear on why it is you're here on this planet and what you're supposed to do about it, 1% better at making decisions and staying focused, 1% better at working with other people and being able to take their perspectives and to really gel and lead team. And all this stuff, the compounding effect of that is extraordinary for leaders. Yeah. That's such a simple thing, but it's hard to do. And so we give people the tools and the motivation and the kind of the framework for doing those types of things. And then during the day, we also have spot drills and ways to stay really connected and in the moment and energized and to activate all 5 of those mountains. So it's a no excuses program because everyone says, well, that takes a lot of time. And I said, well, not really, because, you can do the whole morning ritual in 15 minutes. You can do the evening ritual in 15 minutes. So it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of this training as part of your workout. So instead of just working out, you're going to train yourself with 5 Mountain training during your workout. And we teach people how to do that. And then, during the day, you're going to do all these spot drills, and also the way we teach people how to fuel themselves is important, because we think 3 square sit-down meals a day is a myth. Human beings were not meant to fuel that way. So, it frees up a lot of time. I don't have sit-down breakfast. I don't have sit-down lunch. The only meal that I actually will ever sit down for is with my family in the evening. And then that's just a light meal. It's not the heaviest meal. It's the lightest meal because I've been fueling myself throughout the day as needed on demand with the right stuff. And it gives me a lot of energy and it frees up a lot of time. It's interesting, Scott. I had that all the way back before I went into the SEALs. I didn't like using lunchtime for eating lunch.
I take my lunchtime to work out.
Yeah, it's a great time to train. It's like essential time to train, actually.
I find it basically puts a break in my day, the midpoint of my day where I forget about the morning crap that went on that I had to deal with, and the stuff that's left over that's still hanging. During the workout, I become much more clearer, and then all suddenly I know the way forward. I'm making those decisions, and then I'm ready to roll for the afternoon. Once I get a shower and a small lunch into me, and I'm ready to go again.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that.
Mark, man, this has been my quietest podcast ever, and that is
that's funny. Well, I've been talking 300 words a minute with a few gusts up to 450. Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry because it's really good. I kind of like, wow, we were talking like time has flown, but I do got one more last question for you. Well, actually, a couple last questions. But if someone hasn't been into meditation, they haven't really been into being more mindful and in mindfulness and connecting their complete body and their mind and all this, and thinking like a warrior and kicking ass like you're talking about this whole time. Where's a couple tips, 2 to 3 tips on where they can begin to start being more that way?
Sure. I'll give you one important one. There's a whole process to learning how to meditate, and it takes a couple of years. That's why most people fail when they meditate. They think, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to not think, or I'm going to sit down and I'm going to really concentrate on this guided audio, and then their mind just starts racing off. It takes a while to cultivate that stability to be able to concentrate on one thing, or even to be able to drop into the state of pure presence, or what they call touching the void. It's really difficult to do. It's precious when you do that, or some of the listeners are like, yeah, I'm sure there's people who are listening to your podcast go, yep, he's right, and I've experienced that. So I'm there. Great, because it takes a couple of years. So the starting point, we start with the breath, because the breath is, some people we say, well, start with movement, but movement with the breath, right? So like Tai Chi or yoga is a great way to start, because now you're still physical, you're still outward focused, but now you're getting closer to having an inward focus because you're concentrating on the breath and you're moving. Yoga is not exercise, right? Some people in the West, or most of the West, has conflated yoga to exercise. It's not. Yoga is concentration training for busy people, active people who have to basically continue to move until they've really cultivated stillness and action to where then they can sit in meditation. So we do start with mindful movement, somatic movement, and then the second step is to do what I call box breathing. This is our gift to the world. I started box breathing many years ago, and I've been teaching it to SEALs and everyone else since 2007. And now it's kind of like the word is becoming like Kleenex. It wasn't something I could trademark. I tried, and they said no. But but that's fine. It's my gift to the world. But it's so simple, and I didn't invent it. It came out of yoga. All I'm saying is you want to sit down and for 20 minutes a day, but start with 5 minutes a day. But eventually you're going to get up to 20 minutes a day. You're going to just breathe in that pattern. A 5-count inhale, 5-count holding of the breath, 5-count exhale, and 5-count holding the breath. And ideally you'll do it with your eyes closed. And so it has a lot of the features of concentration training, because you're just concentrating on that pattern. But what an incredible experience, because what it does is it keeps you in a state of balance. So it's triggering your parasympathetic nervous system. It's massaging your vagus nerve. It's stimulating all the relaxation and recovery hormones. So you get to bleed off all the stress that's built up in your life, both acute and chronic. And then because your brain and your heart and your belly are all part of your body-mind system, it's calming those aspects of your mind down. And so that results in a real state of clarity that, you can make better decisions in that space. So box breathing now is being used by doctors during surgery, attorneys, during their courtroom, appearances, business people during board meetings. I box breathe multiple times a day. I use it before everything that I'm going to do that's important. And I do it every day in the morning. So I think that's one of our secret weapons. In our training at Unbeatable Mind, we actually layer in, we consider box breathing to be kind of like the foundation. Then on top of that, like an app, on top of that app, we build in other tools. So on top of the box breathing foundation, then we'll build in the tools to cultivate the positive, powerful warrior dialogue, that internal dialogue. We call that feeding the courage wolf. And then to create mindful awareness so that you can have great situational awareness of everything that's going on around you and inside of you. Then to learn to visualize powerfully, both the practice of skill and the practice becoming the kind of person that is worthy of stepping up to some of those big, audacious goals that we want to take on. And what we call task orientation, which is chunking things down to the smallest arc that will lead to success, which helps keep us really radically focused in the present. All of those we train through this box breathing practice. This is money skill for any leader. So start, adding this to your morning routine right when you wake up. So when we wake up, grab a glass of water, sit back in bed or on your stool or in your chair, straight spine, and just begin that 5-count inhale, 5-count hold, 5-count exhale, 5-count hold. And when you're done with that, get up and do some light yoga or something that's going to move the spine and kind of reintegrate your body. And you'll be off to the races.
Awesome tips. Awesome. Wow, the whole show is fantastic. Wow.
Cool.
I'm going to have to re-listen to this one. So I don't know if you know, I do a key takeaways portion at the end of the show, where I usually recap 2 to 3 of my key takeaways from the guests.
Right.
I'm going to have to filter because I've been taking notes this whole time.
I get it.
I'm going to be redoing the whole show. Mark, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I do got one last question, which I ask all my guests, and that is, according to you, Mark Divine, what makes a great leader?
I think a great leader is someone who's taught themselves that it's not all about them. So they've tamed their ego, and they genuinely care about their teammates and the mission, and they're willing to suborn their own victory or their own need to, for the applaud and for the success to be theirs to the team. And that needs to be trained. It's not, very few people actually have that without, let me put it this way, authentically. Yeah. Right? It has to be authentic, because if you're pretending, like if you read, servant leadership, or like there's a lot of books like, out there like this, Leading from the Heart or something like that. If you read it and you're like, oh yeah, I got to be like this, and you try to be like that, but you're not like that, then everybody knows.
It comes across easily fake.
Right. It's fake. So you got to really work on it.
I always say that I'm the reason for my guys' failure, but they're the reason for our success, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the military is a great place to learn this, because you truly have to rely on your teammates for your life, for survival, for the mission. You train together, you suffer together, you sweat, you bleed together. And ultimately it develops great respect. When you check your ego at the door, what you're really saying is, I respect you, I trust you, I care for you, let's go get it done. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why you see a lot of military guys hug, and people are like, you don't ever see that in the business world, right? and guys are able to call themselves out and call each other, when someone screws up, to call them on their shit, but to do it in a way that, it's like, okay, you're right. When my teammates called me out on my screw ups, I was like, thank you. You're right. And you develop you call it a thick skin, but it's really a big heart. You know what I mean?
It's definitely another level of trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, Mark. I've thoroughly enjoyed the show. I know the audience will too. So this is the time where I flip the mic over, although you've had the mic the whole time. But feel free to, where people can find you. Give yourself a SEALFIT a shameless plug. You are releasing another edition, later edition of your book as well. So you feel free to talk about that too.
Okay, so I'll start there. One of my books is called The Way of the SEAL. I just love this book. It was so much fun to write, and it's kind of like my treatise on how to live the warrior way. We chose The Way of the SEAL because I was a SEAL, Navy SEAL for 20 years. A lot of what we talked about you'll find in the book, but the book is really for leaders. The subtitle is Think Like an Elite Warrior to Lead and Succeed. And I had an opportunity with my publisher to do a new edition for the 5th anniversary that it's coming out on Memorial Day. So 2 new chapters, one leading in accelerated times and one building an elite team. Key takeaways for every chapter. It's been edited and updated. It's a super cool book. And the cool thing about this book, Scott, is it's getting more and more relevant every year. So I'm excited about that. That you can find more about that and also get a free workbook PDF. It's like 40 pages with all the exercises and stuff by going to the wayoftheseal.com, wayoftheseal.com. And you can pre-order it there. SEALFIT is our rigorous physical, mental training program for warrior athletes. Unbelievable programs we have there. One's called Kokoro Camp, which is our 50-hour nonstop training program that's modeled after the SEALs Hell Week. And we do custom programs for private groups. We do a lot of high schools and college teams and professional teams, and as well as corporate teams. And then Unbeatable Mind is our executive coaching program, and we're getting into business development, not business development, but business coaching, teaching people all the skills that we talked about. So unbeatablemind.com is that. And then I have a book by that name, Unbeatable Mind, which is really where this all started, and that's available at Amazon. Thanks for letting me do that.
Yeah, no worries. For the audience out there, again, things are always made easy for you guys. For everything regarding Mark, all the links and stuff, you just go to show notes, movingforwardleadership.com/54 as in 54. You're going to find the links to his websites, as well as the links to his books, and they'll be also listed on the Moving Forward Leadership resources page too. So, Mark, again, man, thank you for your time. I know it took us a little bit to get this off the ground, but I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and from the hotel room that you're in, vacated from your house. For the audience, stick by, and I'll have my key takeaways after I figure out which ones I'm going to use.
That's awesome
today.
Scott, it was awesome. Thank you, buddy. Booyah.
Cheers. So, don't you guys now understand and see why I was so excited about this show when we first started this episode? What a great guy. What a great episode. What a great interview. I was speechless for most of the time, which is very odd for, you, the listener, if you've been listening to me for a while, / if you know me, people know that it takes a lot for me to be speechless. But Mark definitely did it. Anyway, let's dive into my key takeaways before I kind of wrap up today's episode. And the first one being impact 1 to impact 10. And this is really a core leadership thing, right? If you have an impact on one person, then that's actually going to extrapolate and impact more and more people as that person impacts, let's say, 2 people. Then they go out. So now you've impacted 3. But then those 2 go out and impact 2 people. Well, then now you've impacted 9, right? You're almost at that 10 simply by impacting 1. So keep that in mind while you're trying to achieve something new. The next key takeaway I got was that the brain and body are one. And you heard Mark talking about it. What we want to be able to do in our minds, our body basically extracts that and does it for us. So the brain and body are one. We have to treat them as one. You have to look at them as one and basically act as one and go back and listen to what he's talking about during that section and basically getting in the right mindset to achieve what it is you need to achieve. And then the final key takeaway, which I got going on in my mind, is that we need to speed up today. We actually need to slow down. How often are we run over, overtasked, overprioritized? Everything's a priority. Well, guess what? Nothing's a priority. We need to speed up. We need to slow down. Another podcaster out there says, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no, right? You need to get excited for those things that they're doing. Take away those minutes, hours, days of your time. Because if you're not excited for it, then why are you even bothering to do it? And I normally do 2 to 3 key takeaways, but you know what? I'm going to throw in a fourth because this episode was so damn good. And the final one is, win your mind before kicking off the day. How many of you are out there? You wake up and the first thing you do is grab your phone. I know you're shaking your head going, yep, that's me. You know what? I do it sometimes too. Wake up and check my phone, right? But no, how about you just sit there, lay there, relax, meditate maybe even a little bit. Do some of the box breathing Mark has talked about. Think about what you're grateful for today. Don't think about what you need to achieve today. But think about what you're grateful for as you start your day off. Okay? Win your mind before kicking off the day. That's it, folks. If you enjoyed this episode, which you must have, because God knows I did, then share it. Share it with somebody that you think would enjoy it as well, right? Go out there and share it. And feel free to leave me a rating or review on whatever platform it is you're using to listen to this podcast so that others can go out and find this podcast and listen to many great shows just like this one, right? And also, finally, don't forget to subscribe. If you're not subscribed already, why not? All right? Subscribe and never miss an episode, okay? And the final thing I want to throw out there is, again, Mark's book, The Way of the SEAL. The updated version is in the show notes, okay? The link to it as well, it's on the Moving Forward Leadership's resources page. I'm not even going to edit that out. It's there. If you want to grab a copy, I highly recommend. And actually, a shout out to listener Rob. Rob was kind enough to buy me a copy. So Rob, publicly, thanks, man. I truly appreciate it. So listener Rob, got me a copy. So if you want your own copy, then head out there and grab it. Grab it from the show notes. Again, that's movingforwardleadership.com/54. All right. Hey, folks, that's all I got. I'm going to wind this down and, prep it for launch tomorrow because it is 10:30 at night. All right. As always, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.